Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Today is Wear Red Day, and we wear red on this date on behalf of the American Heart Association because the leading cause of death among women in this country is heart disease. Today is also the anniversary of my grandmother passing away. I'm going to bring up a photograph of me with my grandparents. This woman was my heart and soul, and she still is. Every morning, I begin my day by saying hello to her. And she believed in me, and she said that she wanted me to keep going. The last year of her life, when she was fading away, I went home that year to South Carolina 5 times in the year. And then she passes away on February 2nd, and we are in the midst of one of the biggest blizzards that I've ever experienced here in New York. And I couldn't get home for the funeral. And I remember my mom and dad sitting down and talking to me and telling me that it was obvious how much she loved me and how much I loved her, and that she could forgive my not being home because of this major storm that we were in. But for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome to the show. My show is all about celebrating life, celebrating art, celebrating artists. And none of my guests know when they will be brought on, which adds to the excitement of the show, at least for me. But I'm going to bring on one of my first guests right now because I drew a number. And the number that came up was number 3. And here she is. It's Valerie.
Oh! Oh, I've got the golden
You
ticket.
got the golden ticket. So how are you, Valerie? We
I
haven't
am
seen each other
doing
in a while.
great. I know. I'm doing really well and lots of wonderful things. And I wanted to give a shout out to you that that back in August 27th of 2020, you hosted me to perform excerpts of my award-winning show, The Pink Hulk: One Woman's Journey to Find the Superhero Within, at the Ludlow Fringe in England. So you had hosted me and did a talk back after I did some excerpts, and I can't thank you enough. And I'm
Sure you
so
can.
happy to be here. Okay, thank you. So I'm really happy to be here. Some really wonderful things are happening this year and last year, and I'm grateful. And I'm wearing my red, and and thank you for sharing that about your grandmother. And
She was
it's
special.
yeah.
I talk to her every day. I still do. Uh,
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
And I'll show you this. This is a photograph of me. Are you ready for this?
I Oh,
This
you still look
hung in my
angelic.
grandmother. This hung in my grandmother's living room, and when she passed away, I said, "All I want is that photograph." That
I
to
love
tell you about
it.
the kind of ego that I have, but because I
Oh,
knew that somehow, someday, it would end
mhm.
up thrown out or something, and I remember the day that photograph was taken, and I was with my grandparents when it happened.
Oh my goodness. And my sister, and I'll just grab this. When I was a little girl, she just mailed this to me when I was probably 7 years old. It was a list of what gifts I was going to give my parents for their anniversary. And I saying that, playing you could play games with my toys, and you could have some love-ins. You can I'll take a picture of you, and I spelled camera wrong, but look how beautiful my handwriting was. It was about 7 years old. I just got this in the mail.
Her
So
handwriting
these
there is better than my handwriting is now.
but isn't that wonderful to have those beautiful keepsakes and that lovely photo? And I put it in this plastic to keep it forever. And I said, I could they can borrow my money. You can use my camera for 20 pictures.
I
So
love that. I was reading an article the other day, and we go through life accumulating things, and this article, and as simple as this statement is that I'm about to make to you,
mhm.
it really got me to thinking. It said everything that you have in your possession at some point is going to belong to someone else. because
Yes.
we can't take it with us. And yet we spend all of our lives accumulating, accumulating. And I've reached a point, I'm going to be 63 next Sunday.
You
And
mean
as
36? The reverse?
well, I,
36.
I'm proud to be turning 63.
Yes.
And I'll tell
Oh,
you why,
good.
because a lot of
We
people did not make it to this age. And
good.
I am thrilled to be turning 63.
Yes.
And, but I, I think for me,
Mhm.
especially at this point in my life, I'm performing at the Laurie Beachman next Sunday night and sold out, I'm happy to say. But uh, what is exciting for me are life experiences, the people in my life, the people, and going to shows, running into people on the street that I know. Those are the gems of my life that I really love.
Yes.
I want to ask you,
Sure.
first of all, what's coming up next for you in terms of your show, The Pink Hulk? And for those who may not know about you and your work, it's an amazing story and an amazing
Thank you.
journey. And you've taken, and I love your pink cape behind you.
Thank you. Yes, that was on purpose.
Yes, of course. But you battled cancer not once, but 3 times.
Yes, and I have to tell you, and you were talking about the magic, what the magic that happens. What I My dream has come true for the Pink Hulk. It's about my becoming a three-time cancer survivor, and I've been in over 50 festivals, 25 cities, 4 countries, and this year especially I'm excited about because of people seeing the show, and I traveled to North Carolina, Minnesota, Las Vegas, to do the show this year, and some other places, and North Carolina as well. And out of that, I was asked to be the keynote speaker at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in the spring, uh, for their survivorship weekend.
And where would
And
that
I'm
be?
so excited. I'm sorry, June
Where
1st.
where would that be?
We're in Seattle at their facility
Wow,
at this
wow.
big celebration of survivorship, and I'm so excited to be the keynote, and I'll be doing some excerpts as well. So what's happening, and also I am going to be March 8th in the empowerography panel, where I'm on a special breast cancer panel talking about awareness. So all these wonderful things are happening beyond the show, and I'm so grateful. When I was at the Seattle Public Theater, my 4 shows raised $3,000 for Cancer Pathways, which is uh, was formerly Gilda's Club of Seattle, and they have all free programs for cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers. So I'm loving what the show is generating beyond the performance. And I'm also now going to be a moderator for a breast cancer organization where people are going to be calling in survivors and patients to get advice, and I'll be one of the monitors. So, and beyond that, I'm also really thrilled to be able, with the Pink Hulk and other endeavors. I'm going to be in a reading of Greenwood that's going to be in February, which is based on the Tulsa, Oklahoma 1921 massacre of Black Wall Street. So
Wow.
it's all these other projects, including the Pink Hulk, that's all about advocacy and all about spreading the message of love, and with this intolerance and prejudice, how we need to squash that. And these projects that I'm on are a part of that. And Baggage from Baghdad is my other solo show, Becoming My Father's Daughter, about my father fleeing Iraq in 1941 from religious persecution, and they fled Baghdad that night with only what they could carry, which mirrors everything going on today. So I think that it has become such a wonderful gift to be able to do these projects that go beyond performing, and performing the Pink Hulk, one woman's journey to find the superhero within, and it's all about us finding our superhero to fight any adversity in life. So I'm super, super excited, and I'm so grateful to you, Richard, for being part of this on this journey with me. And I just did a film shoot for Memorial Sloan Kettering for their Visible Ink program to bring to life a Persian woman's story about her breast cancer, and illustrating that being her on this film shoot and honoring her story and survival. So it's just been such a wonderful experience and time, and I'm so proud of you, and you're amazing. You're a superhero. You're my
Well, I was about
superhero.
to say, you beat me to the punch, that you truly are one of my superheroes. I want to bring on our next guest, but before we do, one of the things that I do on Fridays is I have my mystery cards. And I want to tell you something. Since I started doing this mystery card, I did mystery card in a Google search, and my shows were coming up. So, so I'm going to
Wow.
continue with the mystery cards. So there are 5 cards laid out. So pick
Right.
a number 1 through 5, and we'll pick your card.
4.
And your question is, who are 3 people that you want on your team if there was a zombie apocalypse?
Oh my goodness. That is, we may just have one. So that's a great question.
Yes.
It could very well be. The 3 people. Definitely my mom. She would face the zombies head on, and that's where I get my courage from. So I feel like it's like the Wizard of Oz, like the 3, the Scarecrow,
Right.
the Tiger, and the Tin Man. I also would have my friend Amanda, because her nickname is MacGyver, because she can fix anything. She took apart my VCR one time that wasn't working and put it back together, and it was working.
I love it.
And she's also a great cook, which I am not a cook, so she would definitely be one for that as well. And I think you, I'll bring you with me.
I was hoping you were going to ask
I
for me.
know, of course, because you are the jack of all trades, and you would bring light, and if we are stuck in a cave hiding from the zombies, we could all be entertained by you and your talents. And
Well, thank you for that.
you could do your Friday wrap up in a cave, and with
The
the zombies
zombie
pounding
wrap
on the
up. Oh,
door.
God.
Yeah, the
So, well,
zombie wrap
we
up.
need one more person. So I'm going to let you pull a number 1 through 3, and we'll see who our next guest is going to be.
3.
And this is, well, first of all, so that he knows who he is, he is doing an incredible show celebrating the music of Leslie Bricusse. And I'm a huge fan of Leslie Bricusse. We've never met, Robert and I, face to face, but this is, I think, his 2nd time on the show. And Sunday afternoon, we are going to meet each other face to face, because I'm
Yay.
going to be at Don't Tell Mama. I know that the card that we have doesn't have the most up-to-date information, but you will be at Don't Tell Mama on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Am I correct? And you are muted, so unmute yourself.
And thank you, Richard, for having me. And
No,
hello,
no, don't go
Robert.
anywhere.
I know,
Stick
I
around.
know, I know. I'm here. I'm here. Woo, woo, I'm here.
Robert, you're still muted. Well, do you have a favorite Leslie Bricusse song, Valerie, while he's trying to figure it out?
Oh, I am. There are so many. What is your favorite?
Well, you mentioned earlier,
There we go.
yeah,
Sorry.
The Golden Ticket. So Pure
Yes.
Imagination
Ah,
happens to be one of my favorite songs. And I want
Yes.
to give a shout out. Last night, I went to see Elvira Chatora at Don't Tell Mama, and she closed her show with You and I, which I think
oh, wow.
is a beautiful song.
Oh,
A
And it
gorgeous
made me think of you, Robert, immediately.
oh.
yeah.
So, Robert, meet Valerie. And
Hi, Valerie.
Hi.
so, Robert, I'll
Nice to
begin by
meet you.
asking you, if there was a, God forbid, a zombie apocalypse, who would be the 3 people that you would bring on board?
Well, my wife, Doreen, that's number 1. If my dad were still alive, I would bring my dad. And probably I would bring my dog, Lola.
I love the fact that you mentioned your dog, because your dog is mentioned in your bio, and I think you should.
He's just, you talk about surviving, and Valerie, cancer twice. Lola's just finished her 6th chemo session.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
we're hoping that it's.
Yeah, how's it
And
going?
we haven't heard the results of the ultrasound yet, but she
Oh.
had 6 sessions, and I guess it was Wednesday at the
Mhm.
vet out here in New Jersey. And at the end of the sixth session,
Mhm.
the 2 techs and the doctor came out. They gave her a certificate of like graduation. They applauded her. Of course, all the
Oh.
they're like, "What? Well, I don't understand. What are you doing?" But so when you were talking about your surviving, that related to me right here at home,
Uh-huh.
literally.
Well,
Yes.
Robert, you
My
also,
heart goes out to you.
yeah, Robert, you were also a survivor. You survived a horrible car accident.
Yeah, well, it was a car accident. I was working back in 2009. I was working at home here. I was at the second floor and I fell out. I was like leaning out the window. I was rehanging a shutter because I had painted the house. So I fell 14 feet.
Wow.
And essentially, I fractured my spine. So I underwent a spinal fusion. And now I walk with a cane and leg braces, but I walk. All right, that's the key.
That's the key.
And again, I went through inpatient therapy at Kessler Institute here in New Jersey, which I still go back to work out and everything like that. But yes, that's a survival thing too, I suppose. Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and this is in your bio, so I don't want to give, but you also are an attorney.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I mean, did you grow up in New York?
I grew well, sort of, kind of mixed. I grew up initially in Brooklyn for till I was 7 or 8. Then we moved to North Jersey, but I then commuted. I went to high school in New York City. I
Mhm.
decided for whatever reason to go to Xavier High School in West 16th Street, New York. So I did that, and I commuted for 4 years, and then I went to college in Jersey City, and I went to law school in Newark. So I'm kind of a combination of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and New Jersey.
But was the desire to sing always part of the picture?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking, you always think about these things, and you were showing the pictures of you with your. I remember when I was a kid. I guess it was when the Ricky Nelson. I'm really dating myself now.
Well, I
Ricky
know.
Nelson was out with like 78s, and I remember asking one of my aunts. I had 2 maiden aunts who I was very close to, and I said, I really liked it, and they got it to me, and I learned these. I can't remember them now, but I learned a number of his songs, and I started buying original cast albums probably when I was in early high school, late grammar school. So it's always been singing has always been part of what I've done. In addition to law to pay the bills.
Now, do you still practice law?
Oh yes, I'm a what they call a senior procurement counsel in the law department of Johnson and Johnson. And what I do, among other things, is I negotiate IT contracts for like very sophisticated IT systems. I couldn't find my way on today on my computer, but I negotiate these really, really technical things. I have no idea what I'm doing, I guess, but yes, I work for J&J as an attorney.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, with that aspect of your life and career, how much of that finds its way into the performing aspect of your life?
Oh, it certainly does, because years ago when I first started as an attorney, I was doing litigation. I was going to court, like trying cases and everything. So, lawyers will never say, "Oh, I wasn't performing." Well, yeah, but you are performing, particularly if you're in front of a jury or something like that. So to some extent, that those worlds merge a little bit, and I think even in performing, um, the skills you learn as a lawyer, how to be articulate, your memorization of things, hopefully, all of that kind of the two blend together. They're actually they're very compatible professions, if you will.
Well, it's great. We're going to bring on our next guest in a moment, but there are 4 cards laid out. So pull the number 1 through 4, and then we'll bring on the next guest.
2.
Okay. And your question is, it's a would you rather question.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather have a rewind or pause button on your life?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would do it right before I fell and injured
Or would
myself.
you rather have the rewind or the pause button?
Oh, oh, you mean, well, I guess rewind to the extent of going back before the fall.
Mhm.
Yes. I mean, a lot, I will say, going through something like that, and I'm sure, Valerie, going through what you've gone through, you grow very much as a person, separate and apart from the physical. So to some extent, I would always want that. But would I not want to have been injured? Sure. So that's kind of, yeah, that would be my response. But when you have something like that, I think you do become a better person for it. Just because, not just because you survived, but because you just you learn how to cope a bit more, if you will. Not to take too much time, but when I was inpatient in Kessler after I had first fallen, and I was essentially learning to walk again. First, it was wheelchair walker, now braces and a cane. There was a fellow who came in and talked to us, and he was a patient who had been at Kessler. He was in a wheelchair, and he said, and it always stuck with me. He said, "Look, if before your accident, let's say you could do 10 things. And now after your accident, you can do 6 things. What are you going to focus on? The 6 things you can do or the 4 things you can't do?" And I always thought that that was a great way to look at things in life, to focus on what you can do and do it better, and not to worry about the things you quote unquote can't do.
Well, one of my favorite expressions is, how do you eat an elephant? You know the answer?
No,
One bite at a
it's the
time.
time. Okay. Yeah.
So on that note, we're going to bring on our next guest. So pull a number 1 or 2.
1. Why don't we go for 1?
Okay, and she's been here before as well. Speaking of North Carolina, she left New York to go to North Carolina.
Oh.
I left South Carolina to come to New York. Valerie, you did it backwards.
Yeah.
I know. Hi, everybody.
Hi. You have a beautiful name.
Oh, same to you. Thank you. Our
Valerie
parents were very
and
wise.
I met because Valerie was working at 54 Below, which is one of my favorite places. And what I love about 54 Below is that from the moment you walk up those stairs and you walk in, every single person treats you like gold. And that was what you did, Valerie. And you made every person that you waited on. I didn't feel like you were there as a waitress. I felt that you were there as a friend, welcoming me into your home and serving me. And everybody should take a page from that book.
Yeah, they used to call me a mascot. I was like the performer's mascot and the regulars. Yeah. So that was a good time.
But
It was crazy, but it was the performers and the guests all made the play. It was magic. It was a magical place. It still is. I'm assuming.
It is. It is. But over the years, it's gone through a lot of changes since you left, Valerie. It's not the same, but it's, but there's a lot that I still love the venue. I love going there. You have worked in a lot of different restaurants, venues in New York. You're back in North Carolina, as I mentioned now. And now a whole different realm for you. You're in the real estate world.
Yeah. And, you never realize what you do in your life is actually preparing you for something else always, right? But years of working with people in all different, backgrounds and temperaments and speeds of service and dealing, multitasking, all those things came to play. And, I always loved houses, and my grandfather was actually a furniture maker and a house builder, and built the log cabin in Wyoming that my mother and my aunts and uncles grew up in. And it's still there, actually. It's a beautiful log house. And so my mom loved houses, and then always took me around. We'd look at different houses, and I would always have a different dream house in the real expensive neighborhoods. And I would change it weekly. I would say, oh, that's my favorite now. I'm going to move in there, and I would map it all out. So then when we moved here, I was working in a restaurant, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And actually, hospitality for 37 years has actually killed my body. So now I've been in a lot of pain recently with my hip and my spine and all kinds of stuff. And, I'm just really focusing more now on gratitude and staying in every moment and trying not to get overwhelmed with everything. But it all prepared me to taking all those skills and using it in real estate, because now I found myself a few times last week. I was holding an open house and I was having 4 different text message conversations going at the same time. And every time I'd get another one pop up, I'd say, oh, another table needs me.
Well, it's interesting. I saw and heard an interview actually recently with Ryan Seacrest, and they took questions from the audience, and a woman asked this question, and I went, "What a brilliant question! I wish that I'd come up with it." But she asked him if there was a particular book that he read that he recommended to other people. I wish that I knew the name of the book, but there is a guy who owns a business on Fifth Avenue, and it's all about the hospitality industry. But he says no matter what we do in life, all of us are in the
We're all
hospital.
serving someone.
Yeah.
We're all serving someone. We're all serving
We're
someone.
all serving someone.
Yeah.
What do you look for in hospitality when you go out?
I'm really bad when I go out because I haven't found a place that people care enough about actually giving good service. And when I started working here, they say, "Oh, you think of like fancy, service and 4-star, and it's not 4-star, 3-star, 2-star. It's either good service or bad service. That's it. You just change and adapt with where you're working." I mean, when I was at the Rainbow Room or the World Trade Center at the greatest bar on earth as a manager there, I did that too. And I was at Guastavino, which is now I hear a Trader Joe's or a TJ Maxx under the 59th Street Bridge.
Oh, I don't know it.
Oh, it's a Trader Joe's. It's a Trader Joe's.
But then the rest of it turned into a TJ Maxx. That's where the restaurant was. Guastavino. It was super fancy, and I was the only female captain on the floor. And I had my own carving set and caviar spoons in the whole thing. And that was fun. That was a lot of stress. So I traded stress from working for gratuities to now stress for working for commissions. So I guess it's just one thing to the next. But I'm trying to stay focused, and I've also eliminated some negative relationships since I've moved here that have been always weighing down on me. And now, you get rid of some negativity and you leave room for beautiful, positive things to come in your life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's funny because I was thinking about you, and you always remind me of my favorite when I was little was Mr. Rogers. And how he said that when in times of, there's always going to be bad things that happen in the world, but his mother always told him to look for the helpers, right? So if you pay attention, there's a lot of good people out there still. And if we focus on that and then trying to emulate that all the time. And you, Richard, are a great helper in all ways possible. And a celebrator of other people. And it all comes back to you and you give it out again. And you just keep that cycle of gratitude going. And
wow, thank you for that. I'm going to share with everyone what my guilty daily pleasure is.
Yeah.
Some of you are going to laugh when they hear this. But every day at 12 noon, I stop everything and I watch The Waltons. I'm obsessed with this show. I grew up with The Waltons. My grandmother and I used to watch it together. But what is so interesting now as an adult watching this show is that Judy Norton, who played Mary Ellen, is a friend of mine. Several of the writers are friends of mine, and I will watch an episode and I will write to Judy and says, "I just watched this show today and I've got questions." and I want to give a shout out to her because if you're a fan of the show on YouTube, she has her own YouTube channel, and she goes behind the scenes of every episode. And she does shows where people can ask questions. But what I started to say was that I was watching last week, and Ike Godsey, who has the general store, has a heart attack. And so his wife, Cora Beth, decides that it's best that he leave this business and that they go to Virginia Beach and retire and just enjoy the rest of their lives. And she said, we don't need this anymore. And so a guy comes in to redesign the entire store. And he goes, I spent 35 years building that. I did this, doing this. And the guy is like, brushing it all off. And he said, these are not just customers. These are my friends. And Valerie, you have that quality. You treated everybody as your friend when they came in.
Look at us now.
Yes. And
7.5 years later.
And I also, when I am in, and I'm sure you feel the same way, Valerie and Robert, that audience, these are my friends. Even if I don't know you, you're my friends. I want to bring on our next guest, but there are 3 mystery questions.
Oh.
So
Okay.
pull yours. 1, 2, 3. 1. And again, it is a would you rather question.
Good.
Would you rather be too hot? Well, now that you're down in North Carolina, would you rather be too hot or too cold?
Oh, too cold for sure. The craziest thing is that I left New York because I hate the summer and being hot. And then Mom said, well, I want to come, let's move together. And she wanted to get away from the snow. So she won. I wanted to move upstate New York along the Hudson Valley and a little cooler temperatures. But I love snow because, of course, I wasn't driving. I was, a commuter by, over here.
So we're going to bring on our next guest.
And Valerie, I think one of the biggest things today was that to meet you and hear your story, because I'm going to be looking you up, Miss, and you're an inspiration.
Thank you.
And Robert, I think we met before at 54 Below.
Thank you.
Robert, I think
yes, I was thinking maybe we did. Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Picture it, black shirt, suspenders, smart ass. That's me.
No.
So, Valerie, let's bring on our next guest.
Okay.
Number 1 or 2.
2.
And hopefully he's going to stay on this time. And that's Michael
There he is.
Colby. Yes. So Michael, welcome to the show. I knew that you were having a lot of trouble, and Satomi, who we're going to get on quickly, was helping you out. So thank you for that.
January here.
Do you consider yourself too cold or too hot?
I like the porridge that's just right, but I'd rather be too darn hot because I can sing a song.
So as you can see, he's the lyricist of the album Other Lives. Not just that, but you've got so many things. He grew up in the Algonquin Hotel. His grandparents were very much a part of it. Looking back over everything, Michael, what do you consider the greatest lesson that you came away from about yourself from writing your book, The Algonquin Kid, everybody, if you're looking for a good read? So what did you learn about yourself from writing this book?
Well, that I could complete it. I didn't even know at the beginning if I would get through it. Some of it was painful, some of it was nostalgic, but you go through a lot of inner turmoil as you're going through your life. And I'm just glad I got it out there because I love the Algonquin, but it's not what it was. And my book captures what it used to be.
Well, let's go there for a moment, because I remember the Algonquin was one of those rooms. It was a prestigious room to play in New York. If you got booked there, you got booked there because you were worthy of being booked there. That's not to say that people are not
great people. Yeah.
It was great. And then they changed hands and the business changed. What did that feel like for you emotionally as that was all happening?
Well, Donald Smith and my uncle Andrew had this vision for years to open up the Oak Room as a cabaret. It had existed in the late 30s with Greta Keller, but that was short-lived. And I had the advantage. They took me out scouting for people. So I actually got to see Mabel Mercer, who they originally thought the room would be for. But it was just like it was like a time machine back to the past. And KT Sullivan has opened up another room. but the old Oak Room had a special ambiance, and I know that the dynamics were not great. You had to turn around like Megan in The Exorcist to see everything. But there was something very special and otherworldly about it. And that's recently in December. I'm very tied in with Urban Stages, and I presented 2 evenings. One was Nights at the Algonquin, one was Created at the Algonquin. And at Nights at the Algonquin, I gathered headliners from those days to capture them on video. And that included Steve Ross and Katie Sullivan and Darrell Sherman and Jeff Horner. And this is going to be it's going to stream. Both of the shows are going to stream so that we can share that. And I mean, there was one person that we wanted to have on, and he passed away before. So I'm just glad I got it all down while I could, just like when I wrote the book. That's a piece of New York cultural history I wanted to keep alive in my own way.
And you're doing a great job doing that. So God bless you for that. I do want to bring on our next guest because I don't want to keep her waiting too long in the wings. And before we do, there are 2 cards left. So pull a number 1 or 2. Michael?
2.
Okay. And it is, if you were a rapper, what would your rap name be?
I would do the best job wrapping holiday gifts. That's what I did at rapping.
It's funny that you say that because there's an episode very quickly of The Nanny. Do you know the episode, everyone? Where Ray Charles, who is dating Yetta, Ray Charles said that his son, his grandson, is one of the greatest rappers in the business. And so Fran brings in this guy to star in a Broadway show, and he can't sing. And literally rap. So Valerie, you are the one who suggested our next guest. So
Yes.
I'm going to let you introduce her. And what was it about Satomi that you said she should be on your show?
I am a huge fan of Satomi, and we studied in the same acting class, MTB Studios, and we've been friends ever since. And she's just been such a light, and she has so many gifts she gives to people, the most giving person I know. And she'll probably mention Broadway Hearts, that she pulled me into that as well. And that's and I'll let her tell you about that. Without further ado, Satomi Hoffman.
Hello, Satomi, and thank you for your patience waiting in the wings. And thank you for helping Michael.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, tech support and performing, these are the things that I can do for you. Actually, when you were saying waiting in the wings, I just like had this memory come up. One of my favorite moments, if for those of you out there who don't know, I was a closing cast member of the Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. And one of my favorite moments was waiting in the wings at the end of All I Ask of You, and looking out onto the stage at our incredible set that looked like the Paris skyline. And it was magical. It was that kind of thing that you could stand there and just feel like you're there. And so thank you for bringing that memory. And thank you for that glorious intro, Valerie. I love you. You're
I could say
incredible.
more, but I want you to talk.
We're part of the
You
Mutual
talk.
Admiration Society, Richard.
Well, I
That's
want to
what's
ask
happening.
you about that closing night because it's such a part of our iconic theater history now. But how long were you in the show before you all got the notice that the show was going to close after 30 plus years?
So, you know, the pandemic makes counting how long difficult, right? And then also I took some leaves of absence to, one was for injury. So Valerie, we can chat about that. And then also doing other projects. But if you just include all of it, I joined the company in 2009 and we closed in 23.
Mhm.
So that's the part of my life that encompassed
Wow.
Phantom.
Wow.
And, you know, I still say how lucky I was and am to have been a part of that iconic show. And it's funny, when I joined the company, you know, it was one of the first Broadway shows that I saw. And it's really easy to sort of, you know, poo-poo it as, oh, that old chestnut. And then I went to see it, you know, later, you know, years after it had opened, and it works. It's so stunning. And that particular production, largest orchestra on Broadway, our costumes, the original Maria Bjornson designs that have her eye and her understanding of design. So I'm going to school y'all for just a second.
An endangered species, that kind of orchestra too.
Say that again?
It's that size orchestra should be cherished because it's almost an endangered species now.
It is. And something that people don't understand is, and a lot of producers don't quite understand, or are trying not to look at, is you can have the best sound system that they make, but nothing compares to the way the vibration of, you know, the wood in those strings and the brass on those horns, and, you know, the sound that those reeds, that literal physical vibration that happens and affects you as an audience member,
As an artist,
as an artist.
as an artist, there's
Yes.
nothing like it.
Nothing. It feels like you're embraced in a hug of music that you
I went to
don't have
see
anywhere
Nothing
else.
on a Mattress the other night, and
Yes.
yeah, have you seen it?
Yes.
It is incredible, and to
It
have,
was a larger orchestration than they ever had when they started.
Right.
yes, but to have an orchestra that big, the first show that I did in Atlantic City, we worked with tracks, and it was the only time that I worked with tracks because I have an ethical reason that I will never work with tracks again. And so I remember when they sent me the tracks to rehearse with, I called the producer and I said, "This sounds like roller rink music." Not that there's anything wrong with roller rink music, but she said, "Oh, Richard, you don't understand. When this is played through the sound system and everything, it's going to sound like a full orchestra." It never sounded like a full orchestra. It always sounded like roller rink music. I was fortunate that out of that show, to pat myself for a moment, I was the only one asked back when they were going to do a scaled down version of the show. Because with that show, we had dancers, we had everything, and they were going to do like a smaller version of the show. I said, only if you have live musicians. And we got them. We got the live musicians, and there's nothing like it.
You know, this is reminding me of the recent production of Here Lies Love on Broadway. Originally was planned to not have any musicians. And the reason that they did it is, you know, to honor the tradition of karaoke in the Philippines. So I understand conceptually what they were going for. However, they did negotiate with AFM and got some musicians in. First of all, the show was way more fun than I ever thought imaginable. But the difference when they had the live musicians in the numbers versus when they only had tracks, it was like the whole theater all of a sudden just came alive with that vibrate. It was incredible, the difference. Sorry, we could go off on this for a long time. I have feelings, you have feelings, we're in the same feelings.
You know, we were talking before we went live, and I want you to go there about this incredible new documentary about the making of We Are the World. I watched it last night. Valerie watched it too. I mean, there we are, synchronicity. And Valerie said something, and I can't believe, I don't know if you saw my post earlier today. I cried through the entire show last night because that's me. I'm a sap. But I was crying at first of all, the youth of all of these artists, like every major pop entertainer from the 80s was asked to be a part of this. And I'm sure that the ones who said no, which they
Are
didn't
kicking
in
themselves.
the film, probably are kicking themselves to this day, that they were not a part of this experience. And you have a connection somewhat. So if you could talk about what you know about how that evening came to be.
Yeah, I do. A dear friend of mine, Tommy Baylor, I actually did a staged reading of a musical called "'Twas" of his a long time ago. I mean, it was probably about years ago, and I was a youngin', and you know, I got to tell you, it was one of those things where I knew that he had had his stamp on our contemporary consciousness. He's one of those people that you don't know his name, but he's done everything and he knows everyone. And just more recently, we started talking and I started watching some interviews that he's done. And it was like, geez, Louise, he has done everything.
Mhm.
And it's my understanding, and he'll kill me if I get this wrong. So sorry, Tommy, if I do. I believe he did the vocal arrangements on We Are the World. And so he has shared, and I think some of these stories ended up on the documentary. I haven't seen it yet. It just came out.
Watch it tonight, everybody.
Yes, it's happening. But he's told all kinds of incredible stories. I can't remember who it was, but apparently when they started, the room was a little bit tense just because you had this bevy of superstar hard hitters, incredible people, and not understanding that everybody was kind of fans of each other.
Right.
And finally,
Go ahead, because I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
And you can tell me who it was because I'm blanking on it. But finally, somebody during one of the breaks went up to somebody else and asked them, there it is, to sign their music.
And then everybody, there's this moment where they're all signing everybody. And I'm going, would I love to have, go ahead, Valerie.
Wasn't it Dionne Warwick to Daryl Hall?
I thought it was Diana Ross, but I'll have to go back and watch it again.
It was like an unusual, I was like, oh, okay. It was I think it was to Hall & Oates, right? It was like, but maybe it was Diana.
But
once it started, then they all started autographing each other's sheet music. It was awesome.
But one of my favorite, I'm going to give away one of the laughs in this. Spoiler, everybody. But my favorite was when Ray Charles had to go to the men's room.
Yeah.
Guess who offered to help him get there? Stevie Wonder.
Literally leading the blind.
Right. And everybody burst into laughter with this. But
it was awesome.
It's like I felt, and Valerie, you can add on to this. I felt almost like I was eavesdropping on this special moment because you see some of the performers in the corner that are, like.
How about Al Jarreau?
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, I felt like I was being nosy. Like I almost I went to take my glass off the little end table, and I was like quiet because I didn't want to interrupt them.
But as artists, and we're all artists here, as artists, I'm going to share a story because, those who know me know of my close relationship with Carol Channing. When Carol Channing first went to Las Vegas, in those days, Las Vegas was a 24-hour town. And believe it or not, Jimmy Durante was doing a show at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And he was packing them in, performance after performance after performance. And nobody would follow him. And Carol got the opportunity. And she said, all I have to do is to step into the love.
Yes.
And the room was already generated with that love. And I never forgot that. So, and when people go, oh my God, guess who I met last night? And they will drop whatever name they drop. And I go, but more importantly, they met you.
Yes. Yes. And
Go ahead.
And what's so incredible is that these stars are still performing. Billy Joel just came out with a new single that
It's
just
actually really
came out
good.
this week, and it's right. It's supposed to be. I can't wait to hear it. I just found out. I saw it that it came out, and I just went to his concert the night before Thanksgiving this past year, and I felt like I was still seeing him when I saw him in the 80s. Like I'm just so in awe of the We Are the World. There's the ones that are still alive are still making
about
music,
Cindy?
making us have such joy in our lives with the gifts that keeps on giving us. It's
Valerie,
incredible.
Ferrara, you started to say something?
Oh, I said, and Cyndi Lauper.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
awesome to see her so young with her heavy Queen's accent. That is it's really overplayed what her voice really is, but and to see how she looks amazing now.
Did you
Yeah.
go to the cabaret world mentioned Marilyn May?
Right, of course.
Well, Valerie just mentioned Marilyn before, because Valerie drove from North Carolina to 54 Below for her birthday celebration this past
Just
week.
surprise her.
Wow.
And they sat me right in the row where she was going, and I was seated right next to Melissa Errico and
Who I'm
Liz
appearing with
Kelly.
Tuesday night, everybody.
What's that? Yeah.
I'm appearing
They
with
kept
her
coming up to me and
on
saying,
Tuesday.
because I hadn't been there in a long time, and then Marilyn's walking by me, and I said, Marilyn, and she turned around and said, "Oh, honey, what are you doing here?" She was surprised, and Helen and Kevin, and got to see the whole crew. And talk about an inspiration, Marilyn May. That's all you have to say.
I went to see Marilyn May at the Palace Theater in Stamford, and this has to be a good, well, she's 95 now, am I right?
Wow.
95.
I think she
Almost
had just
96.
turned 81. And she walked out, and the theater was a black box theater, and she walked out and she tripped on a cord and fell flat on her face.
What?
And I was sitting with Sue Mitsuki and Peggy Herman, and I thought we were going to have a heart attack. Billy Stritch was playing for her. Billy Stritch jumps up, they bring the lights up, and she said, "Let's try that one more time." And she goes off and she comes back on, and after the show that night, she told me, "I've never felt so much pain in my life." I know that she was black and blue after doing this appearance.
But she went on with the show.
She went on with the show. She didn't miss a beat.
And probably did her high kicks and the whole thing.
Well, let's go around with this just a moment. Satomi, a moment in your career where, against the odds, you still went on.
Oh gosh, there are so many. I guess what this is it's not a moment, it's months and months and months. When I was in Phantom, I won't go into the gritty detail, but I had horrible tendinitis in my ankle that eventually ended up splitting my tendon and taking me fully out of the show for 9 months. But try to do a show where you're wearing 20 pounds of costume on a steel stage in heels, night after night after night. But, I am strong like bull.
Yeah.
Valerie David, same question.
Yes, that's a great question. I definitely have one very significant moment. I was opening the Pink Hulk One Woman's Journey to Find a Superhero Within, my solo show in Portland, Oregon. And I had gotten 3 biopsies the week before. So I was very sore, and it was the day the show was opening, and it was 9:45 in the morning and 1:15 on the East Coast. And as I was entering the theater, my oncologist called to tell me that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And this was my 3rd time, and it was metastatic. So I said, what am I going to do? What are my choices? Do it or not do it? And I said, no way am I going to let cancer stop me. and I performed that show that night and never let it stop me. And I did the whole run. And even when I came back to New York, I still did the shows and kept performing. And I'm happy to say I have no evidence of disease. Everything is great. And I just had another checkup. Everything's fine. But I said to myself, that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And excuse me, I'm an English major, had to do. And the one thing I learned is that performing is about the audience. They are the ones that come first, and you are there to be with them. And there was no way I was going to not do the show. And in fact, it made me more defiant and said, I'm going to do it. And I did. I was like, ha ha, cancer, smash, the Pink Hulk. So I became a bigger Pink Hulk then, and keep wanting to instill that empowerment and courage to other people that no matter what, keep going, and you can beat the odds. And I'm very proud to have beaten the odds and to never, ever give up hope. And that's the last line of my show. Never, ever, ever give up. Right. And I didn't.
Good for you. That's amazing. I will share this. Carol Channing, when she was doing the original Hello Dolly, she was battling ovarian cancer, which a lot of people did not know. And she would finish the last show of the week. She would be rushed away. She was getting chemo in Detroit. So she would fly to Detroit, get the chemo, and then when it was time to come back for the first matinee, 2 days later, she would come back. And she did that for months. Thank God she beat it, and we know she had a wonderful long life. Robert, same question for you. A moment where you went on against the odds.
I guess that would be the first time after I had my injury and learned to walk again, and I was using the cane and leg braces. I did my first cabaret show after that, a show called Recovery, and it was just something I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to do, until I finally actually did it. And because it was the first time I was walking on stage with the cane, in the leg braces, had to stay in the chair. It just takes an adjustment, but once you get started and the audience is there and you're doing your job, it's okay. The time go and you're like, at the end, you're like, wow, that was okay.
That's great. Valerie.
It's funny. I'm doing it right now. I've always, I get overwhelmed by things if I'm asked to do something and it's not comfortable for me. And I've always made excuses or just canceled out. And now I push myself to do it. And it's funny because one of my favorite comedians, Janine Garofalo, I love her. And I listened to her on Sirius. And one thing she was talking about was that she hates being overwhelmed or anything about whelm or whelm adjacent. She just, I always thought it was so funny because it's so me. I usually I wanted to be a singer when I was really young in New York, and I used to sing at some piano bars and stuff. But I used to drink a little bit too much before just to calm the nerves. And a lot of times I would sit on the piano bench, and I had this one young piano player, and he would boost me like this and try to get me to stand up. But I had such stage fright that I never continued it. Wow. And in the club, I used to sing along with them, and I would just walk around. I didn't care because everything was loud, and I didn't care, and it would just blend in. But doing things that overwhelm me, I've learned now to have a little overwhelmment, just a little bit, and it gets me a little further to the next time. And I don't back out or cancel when something's offered, because everything's offered to you for a gift, right? So you should just take it and go through the being a whelm adjacent, being close to being whelmed, and just get overwhelmed and get over it, right? So
that's great. Michael, today's a perfect example. You kept pushing through it.
Right.
Well, yes, today's an example, but I'll give a variation on that theme. When my show Charlotte Sweet opened, it got such good reviews. We thought we were going to be the hit of the season, and then we were overshadowed when another show opened the next month, Little Shop of Horrors. And we had to struggle, and I had to go to the half price booth every day to sell tickets. And finally, we seemed to be catching on, and everyone got a raise because we were breaking even almost. And the weekend of Halloween, the bottom fell out, and we knew we were going to close. And I went to the half price booth, and I went we had 2 shows that night, and I talked people into coming to the first show, and I knew it was going to be a very sparse audience. And somebody on the line says, it said, "Oh, you know, at Serendipity, they all say the shows to see are Cats and Little Shop of Horrors. You think we can get in?" And I said, "You'll get in." And anyway, I went there, and I was so melancholy because I thought it was going to be a really small house and small reaction. And I went in, and it was like the best audience we ever had.
Mm.
And it was just, it just renewed my faith in what I was doing, knowing that people can see through all the things you have to fight for.
Well, first of all, I mean, this hour flew for me.
Yes.
I want you all to come back. Will you promise me that at some point?
Yeah.
I'm going to share my must go on story, and then I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word of the day. It could be more than one word, by the way. Just any message that it could be about what we spoke about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or just any final message you want to give for everyone watching out there. When for years I performed, a lot of you know this, as Carol Channing, and it was my opening night at Helen's Supper Club, and we were completely sold out. And it was like they were squeezing people in with a shoehorn. And I had, the audience was full of celebrities. It was full of press, everything. I'm getting ready to go on. And as I'm getting ready to go on, I say to my assistant, "I'm going to pass out." And she said, "No, it's just nerves."
I was there
You were there that night.
Oh.
So I said, "This is not nerves. I'm going to pass out." So I go on. I do my first song, my second song, and I'm singing my third song, and I could feel this tingling sensation going up my legs. And I was having an out-of-body experience where the lyrics were coming out, but I knew that I was going to pass out. I could feel everything was going black around me. It was the most surreal experience of my life. And I hit the final note of the song on point, and I hit the floor. And the audience started cheering. And they're cheering louder, and I've got it on tape. They're cheering, and they're cheering. And finally, someone said, "I think he's having a seizure." And so I am lying on stage in a heap. My wig was askew. I was just lying there.
No.
And so there was a nurse in the house. She came up on stage and she said, "Do you know your name?" And I said, "Yes, I'm Carol Channing." Got a good laugh. And they called the paramedics. I was whisked out. The paramedics came, and but I pulled myself together. I went on and I did the show. Without missing a beat, we picked up where we left off. I was out of the room for about 25 minutes. We came back in. I finished the show, and I got rave reviews that night. The show ran for a while, but I mean, it was one of those moments. And then after the show, I was so sick because I had just pushed myself way beyond where I should have pushed myself. But I kept going. So I'm going to give my final word of the day, and it's the same thing that I say at the end of all of my shows. And I hope that it's not just lip service for everyone who's watching out there. We lost our wonderful Chita Rivera this week. And Sarah Rice, we just recently lost. And so many other people that we love in our lives. And I always say, every day, go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Pick up the phone, go to your Facebook friends list, and reach out to the 7th name that pops up, and reach out tonight. I want all of you to do the same thing. Reach out with a phone call, not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. And let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. And by doing so, you're going to make an impact on their life. As my dear friend Sean Moniger always says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. I'm going to turn it over to you, Michael. And when you finish, you will pick the next person. And when the last person says goodbye, I will end the show. So you don't have to worry about how to end it. Michael Colby, it's all yours.
Well,
Thank you, everybody.
I always say, accentuate the positive, as Johnny Mercer used to say. I had no idea whether I was going to get on the show tonight. And I went through every obstacle. Things were collapsing around me. The system didn't work. And it's like when I'm in school, I'm having a bad day as a substitute teacher. And I say, how am I going to get through this? And I don't think of the examples of what has gone wrong. I think of the examples of how I've gotten through this before. And it's against all my nature being Jewish thinking that way. How you just persevere and you find the way through the tunnel. And that's what I always do.
Yes.
Oh, and Valerie, your turn.
Which Valerie?
Valerie.
Valerie David.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to, I'm a big fan of this meditation app called Inside Timer. And I think it's wonderful. Meditation has just been a great thing, especially with just, the thoughts that go and everything. And every day, the Insight Timer gives you the quote of the day. And the one that I just had gotten when I did a meditation was something so important. And it was by Rosa Parks. And it said, to bring about change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try. And I think that's as artists, that is something that is so important because, most of the time we don't book the job on the first try. It's, many auditions, many disappointments, but never give up that hope and never not try. And I think that's the most important thing. The failure is in not trying. You have to be proud to try and do it and to have the courage to break through any of those fears to do something. And that's a life lesson for all of us, not just in the arts. So thank you for having me. And I'm going to pass it to Satome.
Thank you. I'm catching what you're throwing. Along the same lines, I actually talked about this a little bit with my followers before we started today. Is, Richard, you mentioned having an impact on other people. I want to remind everybody the impact we have on ourselves, especially being in the arts, but this goes for anyone. Take a second and acknowledge all of the things that you have accomplished every single day. It's really, really easy to not feel like you're doing enough, to feel like you're lazy, to feel like fill in the blank. We all have that noise in our heads. And it's important to take a second and take stock of all the things you have accomplished and that you have gotten done toward whatever your goals are, even if it's just self-care, like doing a little meditation or journaling or treating yourself to that ice cream today. They're all of that is important. So I do want to say thank you for having me on. And, I'm just grateful to be here today. So I'm going to pass it. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Mr. O'Hare, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Just to pick up on what Tommy just said, I think for me, I would just say, be grateful. There are going to be good days, bad days. I've lost a number of friends recently who passed away. And I determined to say to myself each day, just be grateful. You're here. You're moving forward. It helps. It helps you get through the day. And again, Richard, thank you so much. Valerie?
And it's funny because last time I did this with Richard, I was the last one also. So thank you so much, Richard, for having me again. And it was so great to meet all of you. And let me tell you, you've all touched upon everything that I was going to say. I'm a great believer in just being kind and being truthful and being honest, and just be a nice person. And you know what? You could be that only person that's nice to someone in a day, and it could change their life, you know, from not wanting to be here to, hey, it's not so bad. So just think about that the next time you're in a situation where you have to respond, because right, life is all about actions, and it's most about our reaction to everything. And right now I'm just going to say thank you, and I hope you all have a blessed evening. Go out and do something fun and eat that ice cream like Satome said. Extra sprinkles. Thank you. That's it. I was the last one.